You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
Hello, I'm Stephanie Ruff.
And I'm Aviva Nebeski.
We're the hosts of the Dressage Today podcast, where you can find us talking about anything and everything dressage related. Our conversations span the world of dressage, from leading riders to local level dressage heroes. We're talking training advice, showing tips, and sharing stories to inspire your own dressage journey. So tune in, then tack up. Welcome to the Dressage Today podcast, sponsored by Spalding Labs. Welcome to 2024. This is our first podcast of the year. Woo! Woo! Yay! And later on, we are going to be talking to an equine nutritionist and physiologist, Dr. Debra Powell, who, full disclosure, I have known for, as we figured out, over 30 years, as we were in graduate school together. So we go way back. But before we get to her conversation, we are recording this on Friday, January 19th. And earlier this week, I was down at the Equine USDF FEI level trainers conference, which is a mouthful. Yep. But that was over outside of Wellington.
Bragging.
I got to go because we filmed it, which was wonderful. So it was another one of those great opportunities that I got to go see something that I otherwise wouldn't, because I am not an FEI level trainer. So I got to sit in and watch Sabine Schutt-Carey and Sven Rothenberger teach some lovely horses and riders over 2 days. And it was pretty nice. It was pretty fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah.
I am so jealous. I have seen a lot of things on Facebook. People have been posting what they learned, and it sounds like just an amazing, amazing opportunity.
Yeah, there were lots of people that were posting notes. I was like, oh, good for them. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
But it was very good. And it was a very, very positive teaching experience, which was, going on at the same time that social media was blowing up over the whole Katie Prudhoe USEF teaching thing.
Which I fortunately missed completely, and I think that's a good thing.
Oh, I don't know how you did. But anyway, we're not going to talk about that.
No, we're not.
I was just going to say, just the point I wanted to say is that it was 2 days of very positive, very upbeat, really good coaching and words of wisdom and instruction and stuff. And you could see in a lot of the horses improvement just over from day 1 to day 2. So it was very nice to see. So if you got to go, that's, good for you. If you didn't, check out. There are a lot of people that were posting notes.
And it sounds like a lot of we always say this, but it is just something that we need to hammer home. It's all about the basics. It is. The tricks come from the basics, and getting a horse that's, in front of the leg and supple and through and soften the connection, and you can do anything. The harmony really matters.
Yeah, it really does. And if there was a theme with both of them, that probably was, because they really did focus a lot on some of those basic, seemingly very simple things that then on the second day, then when they maybe did some of the quote unquote tricks and stuff, they were effortless. Mm-hmm. Because they had focused on some of that really simple, straightforward stuff that we never seem to do enough of, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, that we just, it is always just where you have to start.
Yeah. So that was good. And it was very well attended. There were over 300 people there again, most of whom came from parts of the country that were much, much colder than where we were. It actually was pretty decent weather. It was, for us, it rained once for maybe 10 minutes, and that was it.
Nice.
But other than that, so it was lovely.
And you were videotaping, which means that it is going to be on Equestrian Plus?
It will. It will be on our new platform, Equestrian Plus, which is now the home of Dressage Today on Demand. So yeah, it will be available sometime coming up in the next few months. So yeah, if you weren't able to be there and you are a subscriber, you will be able to watch it there. We have a new Ask the L question for you, Aviva.
Okay. Make it a good one.
Okay, I will. It comes from Allison. And her question is, in first level, can you switch between sitting trot and rising trot?
Absolutely, you can, Allison.
Well, that's an easy answer, isn't it?
Yeah, so you like that? No, it's a good question, because one of the things that I get asked a lot is, if I start out posting, do I have to stay posting? If I start out sitting, do I have to stay sitting? And, if you read it, it says you can rise or sit at first level. It's optional. And what I say to riders is, people sit for specific reasons. They sit because it helps them get their horses more through. It helps them get a little bit more engagement. It helps them with connection. And if you have a good seat and you can sit, then sit. But if you start to lose the throughness, if your horse starts to get tight in the back, go to rising, because that's sort of what rising is about. It's opening up the back and letting the horse come more through. So a lot of times I see at first level, people sit the entire test, but they rise for the lengthenings. That's fine. The biggest thing is, be sure that your seat is not interfering with your horse's ability to come through. If you're sitting, if you cannot sit your horse's trot, you will not impress the judge by bouncing.
Right.
So don't. So if you have the option to rise, for most of us amateurs, rising is probably a better option than sitting. Unless you have a really comfortable horse, or your horse is really nicely through, or unless you have a really good seat, impress the judge by making your horse comfortable by rising and letting your horse come up and through.
Right.
So that's my answer.
You don't get bonus points. You don't get bonus points.
You do not get bonus points. No. And, there is this new proposal that, up through fourth level, being able to rise for the medium and extended gaits. And the reasoning behind that is that, we are pounding on our horses' backs because we're not able to sit those movements comfortably. And rather than abusing our horses, let's make them more comfortable.
Right.
Back when I started riding in dressage, you had to sit at first level, and it was, it was a really big deal when first level went to, rising optional.
It was.
And I would say that almost everybody I knew back then moved up from training level to first level, because at that point they could rise, because they couldn't sit through a whole test.
Right.
6 minutes of sitting is a lot.
Yeah.
So do what's right for your horse.
There you go.
And you can bounce back and forth as much as you want, as long as you're not interfering with your horse's balance.
Right. Okay. Good answer.
Right. Thank you.
And when we come back, we'll have our conversation with Dr. Debra Powell.
Can't wait.
Stop the kicking, stomping, and tail swishing this fly season with fly predators. By killing flies before they hatch, fly predators dramatically minimize your fly problem, saving you and your horse from battling them all season long. Take it from our 23,000 plus 5-star reviews. Fly predators are the effective, natural fly control that works. Learn more about fly predators and other Spalding Labs fly control solutions at spaldinglabs.com. Dr. Debra Powell is a native of Charleston, South Carolina. In 1984, she obtained a bachelor's degree from Hampton University. In 1992, a master's degree from the University of Illinois Champaign-Urbana. And 1999, her PhD from the University of Kentucky, all with an emphasis in equine exercise physiology and nutrition. She has been an active member of the equine industry and academia for over 20 years. She was an equine researcher and farm manager at the University of Kentucky, an associate professor at Ohio State University Agricultural Technical Institute, where she was also the first African-American faculty member. She also taught at St. Mary of the Woods College and Hocking College. Throughout her career, Dr. Powell has been an advocate for the promotion and increased diversity inclusion of minorities within the equine industry. Because of her passion for animal welfare goes beyond traditional medicine, since 1999, Dr. Powell has owned and operated Powell Equine Canine Therapy Services, a business that specializes in non-invasive therapies and nutritional consulting for equine and canine family members. This business allows her to work with local, national, and international clients. She has had 2 opportunities to work on horses at the Summer Olympic Games, once in Atlanta and the other in London. She hopes to return as one of the equine physiotherapists for the Olympic Games this year in Paris. Dr. Powell believes in providing scientifically proven methods of alternative therapies for the benefit of the equine and canine family members. Thank you, Dr. Powell, for joining us today on the Dressage Today podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I know. Well, we're excited to have you and to learn lots of new things. And you have your own business. Correct?
I do. Yes, I do.
Can you tell us a little bit about that, what it is, what you do, and just kind of hit the highlights there?
Well, sure. I own a complementary therapy service. So what that means is my focus is providing body-based therapy. So that includes massage, stretching, body adjustments. I do electrical stimulation, electromagnetic work, therapeutic ultrasound, therapeutic laser, kinesiotaping, and some acupuncture, work. So, and then I also do some nutritional consulting as well. And it's all mobile. So it's a mobile operation, and I go to the client.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's a lot of stuff.
It's a lot of stuff. Yeah. It started off with just, when I started this, it was just massage and stretching. And as I became more educated in the other modalities, I would add them in as I saw fit. So.
Right. So when you've got a horse, when someone, a potential client or an existing client, whatever, calls you and wants you to come work on your horse, when you do that, what do you do? Do you evaluate the horse, and how do you go about determining, with all of those tools in your toolbox, which ones to use and what would be the most effective?
Yeah. So when I get a call, usually the client sort of gives me a very short version of what's going on with the horse. And we make an appointment, and I come out, and I just try to get a full history. So that includes your basic, so age, what they use the horse for, how long have they owned the horse, do other people ride that horse, where does the horse hang out during the day? Is it stalled? Does it have a pasture? Does it have pasture mates? Is the horse on any medication that would be prescribed if it was prescribed by a veterinarian, or if it's just supplements? I also ask about the daily routine that they go through with the horse. And then once I get all of that information, and usually while they're telling me all that, I'm observing the horse as well. And I like to see the horse move freely, preferably. So if the horse is out in its paddock or stall or anything where it's not, we don't have a halter on, you're not holding it. So I can just see how the horse moves, what the horse's attitude is, that sort of thing. And then I usually ask the owner, okay, can you walk the horse for me? And then the final part is I ask the owner, can you ride the horse for me? Because a lot of the issues that maybe they're talking about can only be seen when they're seated. So the horse might not show it if they're if the person isn't riding them.
Right.
Yeah. So after I gather all of that, then I go over the horse, and I have a routine. And I always start at the horse's head, and I work through from head to tail, and I always start on the right side. There's no particular rhyme or reason why, but I always seem to start on the right side of the horse, work my way over to the left side so that I don't miss anything. And I do that with every single horse, regardless of what the owner's telling me is the issues. I have owners that say, oh, he's having some problems on his hind end, and then they are puzzled. Why are you working on the horse's head? So, and then I have to explain, I need to see the whole picture of the horse, because a lot of times if we just focus on what the owner is saying, we might miss something, because that might just be compensatory, right? So if horses have 4 legs, and they can compensate for a very long time before we realize it. So after I do all that, I'll go over the horse, and then I will tell the owner what I have found based on what the horse's responses are telling me. And then we'll sit down and we'll discuss what I think are going to be the best options for the horse. And it's comes out to be, it's a cost thing a lot of times for the owners. And so, I might give them the Cadillac option or the Mercedes-Benz option, and then I said, and then we can work our way down with what I think they're comfortable with and what I think is going to be beneficial for the horse. So each modality that I use is going to offer something different for the horse. So for example, maybe the issues were just strictly, once I do the evaluation, maybe it's strictly musculature, and maybe it's just the superficial muscles. And so with that, I'll just usually just say, let's just do a full body massage and on this horse and see what happens. If it's might be a horse that has never had any body work at all. And so a lot of times that whole session is just an introductory session, and just so that I can get comfortable with the horse and the horse can get comfortable with me. And we may not even do anything. And I tell the owner, I said, let's reschedule for me to come back now that the horse is used to me touching them and moving them around. And then we'll start over with that. But usually that's my scenario every single time, regardless, regardless, it's the same. I go through the same thing every single time. So that way I don't miss anything.
Right.
With that.
And it sounds like you feel that certain kinds of modalities address certain issues better, which I'm very curious about, because I've had so many modalities on my horses over the years. And, like, when do you decide to do acupuncture versus chiro versus electroacupuncture versus, therapeutic ultrasound versus massage?
Right. Yeah.
Or is that too hard a question to answer?
No. Yeah, because it's not too hard of a question. It's not too hard of a question to answer. So all of the modalities work some portion of the horse's body. So massage is a physical contact. And depending on how deep a massage you're doing, or how fast a massage or how slow a massage you're doing, you're there it might just be to improve the circulation, because you're going to generate some heat with massage. Okay, so you're physically touching the animal. You're going to generate some heat, and heat is going to transfer to the surface, superficial. It's not going to go deep, very deep at all. And it's going to increase surface circulation. Okay. Massage can also get to the superficial connective tissue. So maybe the horse might have an old injury. I get a lot of those once they've gone through the whole spectrum of medications and nothing's happened. And then I find it's an old injury that has scar tissue in there that might be preventing the horse from actually going into its full range of motion. So, then massage is still a good option if I can get to that connective tissue and just sort of start trying to pull it apart a little bit and disconnect it per se from where it has attached. So in those cases, massage is good, but we have to remember the horse has got to be willing to accept me actually putting my hands on. I don't use any tools with massage. It's strictly my hands. So if I can't get to it with my hands, then massage is not going to be the way to go, because horses and most people don't realize it's really quite easy if you do something too forceful on a horse, even though they may be stoic and not tell you, you can very easily bruise them. And we don't see that because they're covered, right? So they don't see their skin. So we can't see that, oh my gosh, this, we've got some superficial bruising, or we may have some muscular bruising on there. And it might be because somebody was too aggressive with their massage techniques. So I don't add any type of other implements other than my hands when I'm massaging a horse. So if I use electrical stimulation on horses that may have had a really bad, for instance, episode with some type of injury, let's say EPM, and maybe they have some muscle wasting. And so electrical stimulation is really good to start the atrophied muscles back. And then so they'll just, I'll put that on them and start working that back with electrical stimulation. Electrical stimulation also is really good at healing or trying to heal bones that for some reason did not get completely healed.
Interesting.
And so electrical stimulation actually does help bring some of those osteocytes into that non-union, is what the veterinarians will call it. So that non-union piece of bone that maybe did not completely finish healing in there. So it's really good for that. Remembering that it's got to be something that we can reach, right? So since I'm talking about bone, it's going to be the lower leg.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about bone work or anything like that, electrical stimulation too, if you're using it, you have to know where you're attaching your electrodes. So you've got to know the muscle anatomy. You've got to know where it starts. You've got to know where it ends.
Yeah.
So if I just want to focus on one particular muscle, I need to have an idea of where that muscle's insertion is and where it originated from, if that's all I want to stimulate is that particular muscle. So that's what I would use electrical stimulation for. The therapeutic ultrasound and the therapeutic lasers, they do kind of the same thing with different methods. So the ultrasound, we've got sound waves that are going through there. And with those sound waves, it's actually causing minute movement of whatever your probe is in contact with. It can't go very deep. So usually I use the ultrasound on the lower limbs. And I may use it across the top line just to get the superficial. So maybe it's a superficial ligament. Let's say that. So the top line, you've got your supraspinatus ligament along the top line of the horse, right? So your nuchal ligament changes its name into the supraspinous ligament, but that's the same ligament that runs all the way along the top line of the horse. And sometimes that ligament can get stressed. It can have just some minor, may not have any tears, but it may have some pulls. Could be from a bad saddle fed or somebody working a horse before it's ready. So I'll put the therapeutic ultrasound on those areas because with the movement of the ultrasound, it actually helps stimulate collagen production. So collagen is necessary for ligaments and tendons. So where I can reach ligaments and tendons, so the lower leg and the top portion of the back, if I suspect that is the issue, I'll put the ultrasound on that. And a lot of times too, it helps me if they have had a veterinarian already do say an ultrasound, medical ultrasound, not a therapeutic ultrasound. So with a picture, so that I can
see
target,
what you're. Yeah,
I need to target that area. So if they said, this horse had a suspensory injury, and I can see the ultrasound picture, then I can target that area on the suspensory because we want to put back the original collagen that ligament might have been disrupted. So with the ultrasound that does that, if we leave it to Mother Nature and just rest and turn out, sometimes we won't get true collagen forming in that damaged area. What we'll get is fibrous connective tissue. And so fibrous connective tissue is not stretchy, it's not strong. So usually those horses just end up re-injuring that same area over and over again. So that would be the ultrasound. Laser sort of does the same thing, except it's doing it with light at different wavelengths. So I might use the laser, and I most of the time I use the laser just to start the healing process. So if the horse has an injury that's only, a few days old, a few hours old, I'll put the laser on it just to start those metabolites coming to that site to start the healing process. So the laser, just like the ultrasound, it doesn't go very deep because as soon as it hits the skin, and of course it's got to go through the hair before it gets to the skin, those beams of light are going to scatter and you're not going to get the results that you would get as if you would put it on, our skin, right? So I only use the lasers on superficial things. We know that the laser helps with endorphin release. So on the lower limb, I might put the laser on just for pain relief. It's a pretty immediate thing that you see when you have the laser on like that. Its lasting effect is probably, you might get 48 hours of pain relief with that. But that might be 48 hours where you don't have to use so much bute, right? You sort of cut back on your medication. I'm not replacing it by any means, but maybe you don't have to use so much for that. So where are we? Let's see. We did massage, electrical stimulation, ultrasound, laser, adjustments. Usually when I do a massage on a horse, if I feel something out of place while I'm massaging, I'll help work that back in place. So the way that I work is I loosen up the connective tissue surrounding that bone and allow that bone to fall back into its original placement. So regardless what people say, you cannot physically manipulate bone in an adult horse. It's impossible. You might be able to do it in a foal because everything is still soft and pliable, but an adult horse, it's really is not. It's not. It really isn't possible. So what you're really actually doing is just manipulating the soft tissue surrounding that bone and hopefully allowing that bone to fall into place.
Right.
And so when I do that, along with the massages, you get a better hold. If you don't do that and you try to shift those skeletal bones back in alignment, they usually don't hold, and they'll slip right back out because you haven't really attacked the true problem, if it's a muscular problem surrounding that bone, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So, I do use a lot of electromagnetic work. Again, that helps with circulation. So the higher the intensity, the more current that flows through your electromagnet, the more strength is generated. And so then the better the flow is that you're going to get in the area that your electromagnet machine is in contact with. So a lot of times I use that for increasing circulation as well. So let me see, what have I skipped on? The kinesiotaping, yes. Kinesiotaping is
and you know I've done all of these, right?
Yes. Okay. So kinesiotaping is an art form, I guess I should say. So in order for it to work, you have to know what you're trying to get it to do. So
could you say that again for the people in the back row?
Oh. Yeah, so in order for it to work, you have to understand and know what you actually want it to do. You don't just want it on the horse to look pretty because they come in all kinds of colors.
Yeah.
And so you need to know what you want it to do. And it's only going to work superficially. So it's not going to work on the deep muscles. It's going to work on the superficial muscles. So I use a lot of the tape on the lower limb. I use it to help horses that are recovering from suspensory injuries, because it really is good at supporting the leg if you tape it correctly. So that way you don't have to wrap the horse's leg up. The horse still can have some movement, range of motion with the taping. I also do some taping over the back, loin area, depending on if the horse is sore or weak on one side. So I might want to tape it so that the horse, when the horse moves and it feels the tape, it's going to encourage him or her to use that particular side, if that makes sense. I have not found, and I know I've seen a lot of it, but I have not found a lot of usefulness of taping large muscles. Simply because what you're actually working with when you try to tape those large muscles, like for instance the gluteals, over the back end, over the rump, is you're lifting the skin, and so with that, you're not necessarily activating. You're activating the muscles more so than just lifting the skin, and you might just be doing some micro massage on the skin area and not necessarily doing the entire muscle, which might be what your thought process is, if that makes sense. So I don't, for that reason, I don't do a lot of kinesiotaping of large muscles because I haven't seen success with that, at all. So it's the lower limb I've seen success with. It's the back that I have seen some success with the taping. And it's, the taping, if it'll hold for an hour, you're good. And then you'll have to come back and retape it. So that's an art form, and I don't go beyond what I think it will do.
Makes sense
that way. Yeah.
I see so many people who just sort of indiscriminately use it.
Yeah, because I think it looks pretty.
Well, I think people think they're doing something.
Yeah. And a lot, a lot of the taping historically was used as a distraction. So let's tape here so we can work on this. And I think the kinesiotaping really sort of took off from the human side with the human athletes doing it. But horses are not people. Their bodies are not the same. Now, maybe we can probably get a better handle and a better hold if we body shave the horse and remove all the hair down to the skin. Then that might actually be fine, but we can't do that. So it's I think it's a futile, in my opinion, it's a futile effort for doing it. And I've been doing this since '99, and I don't do a lot. I have clients said, well, can we tape him? And I said, well, it really is not going to help him, in my opinion. But if you want to tape them, you can go and buy the tape and you can tape them. I said, but I'm not going to tape him. So, that's, and let's see, acupressure. I do a fair bit of that. I'm not trained. I was not trained in diagnostics with acupuncture. That's a totally different realm. I worked with Master Weigro in Beijing University. Went over there and worked with him for 6 months. And my acupressure techniques are mainly for pain management and pain reduction. So when I use it, that's what I'm trying to focus on. So, we know that we can't get a really good rehabilitation therapeutic program going if the horse is hurting. So we've got to manage the pain so that we can get the horse to use whatever part of its anatomy that we're trying to get back functional. So when I use acupressure treatments, it's mainly for pain management. So I hope does that answer your question?
Yeah, does that answer your question?
Great. Does it answer your question on what I?
Yes. No, I mean, I that answered a whole lot of my questions. Yeah, because it's very. I mean, each one has a very different.
It does. It has a very different results that what you're using it for. You get different results. Now, and I've seen some people that have thrown the kitchen sink, at the horses and hoping that something sticks.
So what kind of common issues do you see most frequently in dressage horses?
Usually sacroiliac issues and suspensory issues. So those are usually the main two. Sometimes I see some thoracolumbar pain, not rarely, but but some sacroiliac regions area, and it could be a strain. It's hard to say. That's a hard area to even access.
Yeah.
So usually if I suspect it just from the history, and a lot of times you can see it when the horse is being ridden more so than if it's not. So in hand you might not see any issues, like they would have bunny hopping and not engaging, but you'll see that when the person is riding.
Right.
A lot of times I will, if the owner can, I would ask for them to get a veterinarian come in so that he can give me a true diagnosis that it is a sacroiliac, strain. So, and they can do that. They can go in with their ultrasound through the rectum, because that joint is up underneath the pelvis.
Yeah.
And it's surrounded by all of these muscles.
Yeah.
So, me poking around the top, like a lot, I see a lot of people do. And I said, well, that really is not telling me anything. So I need to see what those ligaments look like, because a lot of times maybe it's just one of the three ligaments that are surrounding that joint. Maybe that's what the issue is. Maybe it might be a fracture. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe the horse fell or did the splits or something like that, and it might be more than just a strain. It might actually be a fracture. So having a definitive diagnosis that's the SI area is the issue will actually help me decide what I need to do, if I can do anything.
Right.
So,
do you have exercises or things that people can use to help strengthen that area?
Core.
Okay.
Core. So I always say core. So strength.
Rider and horse.
Yes.
I was going to say it's the answer to everything, I guess.
Yes.
Horse and rider both. Core strength.
Yes.
Leg.
Core strength. Yes. Yeah. And everybody says, and I said, you got to strengthen the core. Otherwise a horse is going to start carrying himself poorly, and then it's going to stress that area. So,
right.
Going over ground poles, and I like to do gradual height increases. So, and not trotting. I'm talking walking. So you're walking over these ground poles, and you're going to ask the horse to gradually, as you grade those poles higher and higher, to step over them without jumping. No jumping. Just stepping over. So we're just going to step over them. We're going to step over them. Slow canters also help engage. So trotting doesn't really help. So I and people are, I said, no trotting. Walking and slow cantering are going to be good things that are going to help strengthen that area. You can also do stretching exercises, like what do they call them? Carrot stretches.
Yeah.
Those are actually, carriage stretches are really good if you do them properly. That's the big thing. I usually have to show people actually how to do them, because horses will cheat and they'll turn, but they drop their heads down and around, and that's not strengthening their core. They're cheating. So you want to make sure when you're asking them to bend laterally like that, that their head stays parallel as close to the back top line as possible. And then that's going to strengthen those abs. That'll help strengthen those abdominal muscles up underneath there. What other exercises? I do the chin to the chest. That's another one that they can do, or chin to the carpus, or chin to the fetlock, or actually all three of those also help. Without the horse stepping, you don't want the horse stepping behind or in front. The horse needs to stay stationary. We're just asking for the head and neck so that we'll pull those core muscles up.
Yeah.
But
it's all about the core.
Yeah, it is. The people, I tell them it's we know, right? Because I know when my lower back is killing me, I know.
It's your core. Your core is weak.
Core. Yep, exactly.
Well, and this might be a little bit of a loaded question, but how much have you seen saddle fit impact horses' issues?
That's a loaded question. Well, I tell you, I don't know if I have seen it. Like I said, because usually when I'm called out, it's after they have exhausted everything else.
Yeah.
But I know that saddle fitness saddle fit can impact soundness on the horse. It can, because if your saddle does not fit the horse, so I tell people, I said, I'm not a saddle fitter, but I know where it's supposed to fit.
Right.
So if that saddle needs to be a mirror image of your horse's back. So if it's not, then it's not fitting properly, and then you're going to be creating pressures. And after a while, like I see, your horses are very good at compensating, and they may compensate for a very, very, very long time before they show you that I've got bruising. There's bruising going on under my skin, or there's bruising going on in my muscles. You've been cutting off my circulation for months now, and now my muscles are atrophied in these different spots from where the saddle's been affecting me. So, it can. It definitely can affect a lot of the muscles and the ligaments that it's sitting on,
right?
And then ultimately, indirectly, that's going to affect the abdominal muscles, right? So,
sure.
If the horse is hurting along those long muscles along the back because you've had pressures from an ill-fitting saddle, then it's not going to use those abdominal muscles to lift because that hurts.
Right.
Right. So it's going to hollow its back out. And instead of contracting those abdominal muscles to lift its back, it's not going to do that because, hey, if my abdominal muscles contract and they lift my back up, that hurts. So I'm not going to do that.
Sure. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I don't do things that hurt either.
Yeah. Nope, they're not going to do that. And then, then you see, they start losing their top line, or they get that little distinctive dip behind the withers because those muscles have atrophied. So,
Well, I want to change gears a little bit. And you had the good fortune to attend 2 different Olympic Games. So,
I did.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about your experiences there and what you did?
Yeah, sure. So the first one was in Atlanta. That was the Atlantic Games, and
that was a few years ago.
Oh, yeah. What was that? 90,
96, I think.
96. Yes, 96. Oh,
I was
gosh.
there.
You were there?
I was there.
So
Sitting behind E.
that's when I was probably 10 pounds lighter back then. And I didn't have any gray hair. But, I got into that with the great fortune of meeting Mimi Porter. And I don't know if you know her. She's from Lexington, Kentucky.
Yeah.
And and she actually was the one, and I'm going to give kudos to her. She was actually the one that got me geared up and interested in this type of work that I'm doing now.
Right.
And because she came out, my thoroughbred gelding at the time fractured his shoulder. So he was on stall rest, and when he was released, of course, he had all this atrophy on that. And I called her out because she was one of the only people in our area that did rehab complementary therapy. And she came out and she did some electrical stimulation and some other exercises to help bring him back. And then she was the one that actually took me with her to the Atlanta games.
Okay.
So I was actually working with her as her assistant. And we did the way that they set up there is different than the way that I operate. So my business, I'll go over the horse and I'll make a suggestion on what therapies I think are going to help. When you're a physical therapist there, you do what they tell you to do.
Right.
So, so if this horse just needs some, massage work, but I just want it over the hindquarters. Okay, that's what you do. So, so I was there in Atlanta, and then she introduced me to a few people, and I just sort of kept in touch. And I go as a volunteer, so I'm not paid.
Gotcha.
I'm not paid by anybody. Then I had the opportunity to go again in London at what was that, 2012?
Yeah.
Was in London, and again I was a volunteer there. And I stayed as long as I could afford to stay. I stayed with the host family. But I usually am only there to work on the cross country horses.
Oh, okay.
So I don't get that my time there. I don't get into the dressage barn or the or the jumpers. But I do the cross country ones, and so and then while I'm there, and I go to work on somebody, you still get to see a couple of the other teams. I think I was real excited at the London games when I actually got to see the Swedish team work out. And I was just like, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching them, and and then you get a page that you need to go to,
yeah.
So and so's. Whose stall was it? Twizzle, I think that was the horse's name. Twizzle. Go to Twizzle's stall for his morning massage. And but yeah, so that's what I do.
That's cool.
I'm kind of I'm game to do whatever they want me to do. I think,
right.
I was helping move feet around, anything just to
be there,
yeah. And get to chat with people. I think just before I'll tell you the story. Just before the London games, I was there in Liverpool. So I was in Liverpool at a convention or conference, and we were talking about different physical therapy type work on horses. And that was just before the games started. And I was talking, we were at Antry at the racetrack there.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I was out there, and I don't remember the lady's name who I was talking to, but we were out there, and she was giving me the history of the racetrack and everything. And then it was just she and I were out there looking, and then all of a sudden, here comes this gentleman walking down the steps, and I look, and I'm like looking, and I'm like saying in the back of my head, "That's Mr. Peters. Is that Stephen Peters? I think that's who that is." Oh my God, he's coming down here. So he knew her. And I cannot remember her name, but he knew her.
Yeah.
And he was all excited. He came down there. He says, "Oh, I got picked, for the dressage team for the Olympics." And she said, like, "You knew you weren't going to get picked." Like, oh. So she introduced, he said, "Let me introduce you to," and of course I'm like, "Hi." I think that was all that came out of my mouth.
Little starstruck.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But anyhow, yeah. So that's what I did. And hopefully this year I'll get there for, I can only afford a week this year. So we'll see.
So do you think you'll get to go to Paris then?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm shooting for like the 21st through the 29th of July.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you'll have to keep us posted.
I will.
How fun.
I will.
So if people want to learn more about, well, I'm sure they already have learned a lot of what you do, but if they want to get in touch with you personally, what is the best way for them to do that?
They can either, I have a Facebook page.
What is that?
It will say Powell Equine Canine Therapy Services. That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
So PECS for short, PECTS for short, PECS for short. And they can like that, or they can email me. Email address is PECS, PECTS, Powell, POWELL, the number 1 at AOL.com.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, this has been a very informative conversation. Did you learn anything, Aviva?
I did. I'm going to have to listen to this when it comes out so that I can get more, because I'm sure I missed something.
It's a multi-listen to absorb all of the information.
It's a lot, yeah. Do you travel to places?
I travel any place that somebody wants me to come. It all depends on how much money they're willing to spend on my travel. So I usually tell people, I said, if you want to absorb some of my travel costs, try to get as many people as possible when I'm in the area, and then you can split that cost amongst you. But I travel wherever. I don't have a limit on my distance. The limit I guess is just on if you really want me to come and how badly you want me to come out there, and
you can carry all of your equipment with you.
All of my equipment goes in my truck. Yep. Everything comes with me. I have different ladders because I've got a client in Ohio, and he's got Pertrons, and his baby, who's only 4, is pushing 18 hands already.
Boy.
So,
and to give everybody an idea, how tall are you?
I'm only 5 foot.
Exactly.
Oh my!
Say, that puts it even more in perspective.
Yes. So I'm only 5 foot tall. So
You're tiny.
What is that?
She is tiny.
A little under 15 hands or something like that.
You're pony sized.
So, but yeah, I definitely travel. I go wherever.
But she would prefer not to come in the snow, Aviva.
I don't understand.
Yeah, well,
that at all.
I'm going to be heading back to. I'm going to be I'm going to be heading back to Ohio because I have had clients texting me wondering when I was coming back, or if I was coming back, and I said yes, I'm coming back, and I said as long as it's not any emergency. If you can hang on, I'll be back in a couple of weeks and we'll get you taken care of. So, yeah.
Well, I thank you for joining us today. And we look forward to maybe, let us know if you get to Paris and maybe we can catch up again later in the year.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I will definitely do that.
All right. Well, thanks for chatting with us today.
It's been great. Thank you, guys.